1 in 100 rupture rate risk, and they think that's not that low. That means that 99 women have gone into the hospital before me and they were fine, but I'm going to be the 100th woman and my uterus is going to explode. And they sort of, picture this balloon popping and the baby, dying, and they have to have a hysterectomy and it's sort of all over. The fact is that 1 in 100 cases, there is a uterine rupture. Actually, it's a little bit lower than that. They've done a number of studies and the range is really between 0.3 and 0.9%. For most women, it's about 0.7%, so it's less than 1%. But most of those uterine ruptures aren't even discovered until after the woman is either taken off and she has a C-section and they're like, oh, look at that, there was a little tear in the uterus, and that qualifies as a uterine rupture. Later on in their life, they might have, some kind of abdominal surgery and they're like, oh, look at that, a little tear in the uterus, we didn't notice. Only 1 in 2,000 VBACs results in a catastrophic uterine rupture. And by catastrophic, I mean the mother dies, the baby dies, or suffers severe brain damage. The rest of them are sort of like, oh, there was another complication of birth.
Most uterine ruptures, by the way, are not catastrophic. You'll read in the literature that, oh, if your uterine ruptures, your baby will die and your uterus will get taken out. And that's actually not usually the case. But it can be catastrophic.
I've been practicing for about 11 years, and I have definitely seen uterine ruptures. I've seen a uterus rupture in a woman who didn't have a prior cesarean section. And of course, I've seen uterine ruptures in women that have had prior cesarean sections, and the majority of those were discovered when we decided it wasn't working. We went in to do the cesarean section, the baby never showed signs of distress, and whoa, look at this, the uterus is open. In the cases in which I've been involved, all the moms and all the babies are right now doing fine.
The other thing that's interesting is that, so if you take that 1 in 2,000 risk, and you compare it with another risk that women take all the time, and that's a 1 in 2 to 400 risk, which is amniocentesis. Okay? Women are perfectly fine with getting an amnio, which has a 1 in 200 or a 1 in 400 risk of killing the baby, basically. But they're not fine with what's a 1 in 2,000 risk. So it's a much lower risk than getting an amnio. And what gets talked about very little is the specific risks of a repeat cesarean, which are considerable, especially if you're on your 3rd or 4th cesarean, which, given the limited options a lot of women end up with. And you're talking about, huge increases in the risk of hysterectomy, huge increases in the risk of maternal mortality, and some really scary increases in the risk of placental abnormalities, which could be anything from placental acrivia to placenta accreta, which is a life-threatening situation. And that risk has increased 30-fold in the last 30 years, just alongside the increase in cesareans. In a situation where you have placenta accreta, basically the placenta attaches abnormally to the uterine wall and can tear apart, and it results very quickly in heavy and often fatal bleeding. So that not only puts the mother's life at risk, it puts the baby's life at risk. And that's something that's really not talked about at all, except within the medical community where they have noticed this huge shift.
There was a recent paper that came out from the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology. Actually, it was in the Gray Journal, which is from the American Board of OBGYN. And it had stated that of women who deliver vaginally with a successful VBAC, the morbidity, which means the complication rate for mothers, is less than if they have elective repeat cesarean section.
By trying to make these births